Small apartments or large apartments? There's definitely pros and cons to both. Ben, you focus on large apartments. So what are some of the advantages that you have that you find with large apartments over small apartments? And then we'll tally back.
I mean, again, different flavors for different people. So again, not a wrong strategy or a right strategy, right? I think the reason that we probably go for a little bit bigger is, a couple different reasons, right? I can scale more quickly, right? And there's benefits in our organization to have a lot of assets under management. We have a property management company too, so the more units that I can manage, the better for the overall organization. Then you also get economies of scale, right? When I have 5,000 units that I can go, and I'll just use this as an example, a landscaper here in Houston, right? I can go bid out 5,000 units to the landscaper versus the guy that only has one property that has 20 units, right? Who do you think is going to get a better price, me or him? It's going to be me, because I can provide that landscaper with scale, right? Also, when you kind of get to a certain level, lending gets easier, gets even more competitive. Believe it or not, there's some lenders out there that will not go below $40-50 million loan, and your spreads, which is essentially the what they make on top of the SOFR or LIBOR or whatever it might be, it actually gets compressed, so you get better debt on a bigger deal too, right? Now, at the end of the day, there's disadvantages, right, to the bigger stuff, right? When you're starting off, you're not going to be able to raise $20-30 million. So that's a disadvantage in itself right there. So you have to kind of leg into that. Whereas maybe you could get across, a 29 unit deal, right? How much money did you bring to the table? Zero. All right, even better, right? So sometimes, that's a good thing when you're starting off. You're not going to be able to buy a big apartment complex. And my first one was 92 units. Actually, my most profitable deal that I've ever had. And the second most profitable one was 90 units. So there is some benefits in having a smaller property too, and I'm going to tell you why. They're less competitive, right? Because everybody gets into this business and they think that they need to have a bigger property, and so it becomes competitive in that kind of 100 to 250, 300 unit mark. That's the most competitive space, right? Above that, it's usually too expensive, so you only have the institutional guys. Below that, it's all the mom and pop people, and there's not a lot of those people there that you have to compete with. So there's an advantage of probably going a little bit smaller too, especially to start off with. But again, there's pros and cons to each of, it's really, what do you want to do with your investment goals? Is it, do you want to build a big company, or do you just want to have a couple properties that you manage on your own and you have cash flow? Then, okay, you're going to go about the business a different way than I have.
Sure. Very important points to the ones he made. I think I'm obviously a fan of small properties. Why? I can give you a lot of examples throughout my career where I made $250,000 on a 8-plex. Just last month, I was able to close and cash out on a property on a 4-plex, 1.7 million. How did I do it? Take my class. But yes, I'm here to tell you that smaller properties are way more manageable. The timing is awesome because in a 100-unit, and I do own a 100-unit complex myself. This is the largest one that I own. Everything takes forever. It takes forever to rehab. It takes forever to refinance. It is easier, simpler, right? But with a 4-plex, you can get done in 3 months. Like my student and friend here, Jay, he did it in super good time, and he's looking at a really good profit right now. So just because you want big profits doesn't mean you have to have a big property. That doesn't correlate. You can have big properties just by being creative and acquiring a small deal and maybe turning a 4-plex into an 8-plex and then selling that to increase the valuation a lot. Obviously, we're not here to get $1,000 a month, right? Which is what a lot of people believe. If I start making passive income, $1,000 a month, man, one day I'll make it. But really, what I've come to find out after years of me not only doing this, but studying my students and everybody, all my clients, is that it's actually really hard to get cash flow. And so what you have to concentrate on is the big pops. The $250,000, the $500,000, the $750,000 checks in your pocket. That's what's going to change your life. And a lot of people, again, believe that you can only get that with a large property, but I've proven it time and time again, you can do it with a small property. So they're more manageable. You don't really need 5 years like in a syndication to put in your money passively for 5 years. Maybe in 5 years I'll make $1 million. I want to make $1 million this year, next year, you know? It's time value of money, right? And I think that small properties will get you there faster.
One thing I would add though, you know, from a property management perspective, and this is obviously because I have a property management company, you know, it can be more problematic to manage those smaller properties. You know, so I mean, he knows this, right? You had to be on top of it. You're gonna probably be a little bit more hands-on. But when you're starting off, you've got more time, right? So that's not a problem. But just take that into consideration. Yeah, you might be able to get the rehab done more quickly, but there is that con of, okay, you know, I've got a 30-unit property, so can I have somebody that's gonna be there to collect rents, or maybe a part-time maintenance guy? It becomes hard to staff those types of things. So therefore, you're more involved. And the more involved you are in some of these things, the less it's going to take more time out of your day to go and find your next deal too. So, you know, again, different flavors for different people, but that's been my experience, is when and that's the reason why, one of the reasons why I've tried to go a little bit bigger, just to have professional management and actual staff on site that can go unclog the damn toilets and collect the rents and all that good stuff too, right?
That was actually my experience with the 29 unit, and that's why I vowed not to go that small. I don't enjoy the boots on the ground, like getting dirty. Outside of negotiating the deal, I actually like that part. Otherwise, I don't like anything else that doesn't involve a check. And property management never really involves much checks. I mean, it's in the process, but there's a lot of dirt you got to crawl through.
Oh, it's a thankless job. It's a totally thankless job, right? You know, it's just a tool in our tool belt, though, right? You know, and so that's the reason why we do it. It's not meant to make a lot of money.
But the good thing about the small multifamilies, they are easier to get into.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, like, so easy to get into a duplex, fourplex. So I guess duplex is still more residential, but fourplex, quad, the 29 unit. I mean, that was no money down deal. I had a relationship with a hard money company. I had lines of credit and all that to fund the rehab and all that. But it's just, in hindsight, had I partnered with someone and not gone loan gunman, it would have been a better deal for me. Because it was a smoke air. All my underwriting was right in that deal. I just made the mistake of thinking I could do it alone and should do it alone.
Chris. Ben and Chris were actually talking about like the management of it, the toilets and tenants things, which actually is a big myth. I mean, yes, you are, when you're starting out and you want a fourplex, you kind of want to find out what kind of manager you want to be, what kind of, what a sheet of sheetrock costs, what tile costs. You want to know these things because, not because it's gonna make you rich, not because you're gonna squeeze out a few, pennies from your bottom line, but because you're gonna learn about the business a lot. And that way, like what I was saying at the beginning, was that can make you grow a lot. My first one, I started with an 8-unit complex, and yeah, I was managing the rehab and everything like that. But as soon as I sold it, I made $250,000, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna buy more properties, and I bought a 20-unit complex, and I had a part-time person that was management and maintenance, and so I kind of figured it out. I think that there's a big myth that you have to be there, if it's a small property, sub 36 units, sub 40 units. I haven't really had that experience. I haven't managed a single property since my first one, an 8-plex, because I always kind of found somebody, either if you have to be creative about it. Like if you find somebody that's like, okay, let's share in the profit. If you give me so many X amount of dollars in rent every month because you're managing it, right? Then you'll get a bonus, right? And so there's different ways that you can actually get other people to do it for you. It doesn't mean with a small property that you have to find a full-time manager. That doesn't compute.